JCS! Husband tries to act his way out of a murder charge. We know how this shit goes. He's gonna go in and out of crying as soon as they bring her name up, and then go back to normal talking. Yeah, can I use the restroom? Can I get a Coke? The niggas gonna ask some stupid shit. So let's get to the video.
According to CBS News, 50-year-old stay-at-home husband David Tronis desperately wanted to appear on reality television. In late April of 2018, he managed to secure himself a spot on the show Zombie House Flipping, where he would be featured renovating his newly bought house with his then-wife, 39-year-old financial consultant Shanti Cooper. The only problem was that Shanti wasn't nearly as interested in being on TV, so she refused to sign off on the program, which resulted in David beating and then strangling her to death in the early hours of the following day.
He strangled his wife because he wanted to be on TV that fucking bad. Niggas want the clout that bad. They strangling their wife over.
He called 911 roughly 12 hours later at 3:51 p.m.
He strangled her, then 12 hours later called the police. What did he wait? Did he think the redness around her neck was gonna go away? Like they wouldn't be able to tell her breathing tubes were obstructed?
Hello? Okay, listen to me. Can you tell me what your address is?
Police and paramedics soon arrived at the residence where they were met with a hysterical David performing CPR on Shanti in the living room. His immediate explanation was that he found her lying unconscious in a partially filled bathtub, bleeding from the nose and mouth. He was then taken to the police station.
Buddy, you know they can tell you choked her out and beat her, right? You know they can tell you put hands on her, dumbass.
Where they swapped out his blood-stained clothing for a custody suit. He was also given a water, a blanket, and a box of tissues, then taken to room 6, where he was reassured that someone would be right with him to answer his questions, which wasn't entirely true. He was left in there by himself for 4 hours and 9 minutes before he knocked on the door to use the bathroom.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to bother you. May I go to the bathroom?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Get the nigga, if you were distraught, you wouldn't even be, nigga, you disassociate, nigga, you wouldn't be, I gotta take a piss, I gotta go shit, like, this wouldn't even be a thing.
It wouldn't take a genius to recognize that David's behavior is already suspicious.
And then you saying, sorry, can I go to the bathroom? Fuck you mean sorry?
Ask yourself if you'd be acting like this in the scenario he's claiming to be in.
Nigga,
you find your significant other unresponsive in a bathtub. Then police leave you in a cold room for 4 hours without telling you anything. You might just ask someone, what the hell is going on? Or what the status of your wife is. And you probably wouldn't be all that polite and apologetic for just trying to use the bathroom. He returns from the bathroom and sits there for another 3 minutes. The detectives will now enter the room to commence the interrogation. The time is 9:08 p.m.
Hey. I'm Detective Sprague. Can I get your first name?
First name is David.
David? Okay. We're gonna grab another chair.
Okay.
Did you need something?
I was just asking for a bottle of water.
Okay, so we can grab you.
Thank you.
Have you been to the restroom?
Two lady detectives?
Okay.
Let's see how they work. Let's see how they work.
I'm starving, a cracker or just something. Just some salt.
Did you eat lunch? I did not eat lunch.
Don't be fooled.
Nigga, you have an appetite after your wife is just bled out in the fucking tub?
By the detective's disposition. They're already certain that David has committed either first or second-degree murder, but they don't quite have enough evidence to place him under arrest, which is why they need a confession. David, at this moment, is still free to walk out of that police station, so the detectives will keep the tone sympathetic and non-confrontational for the time being to keep him on that chair. They'll afford him the false belief they are buying into his act as the grieving husband.
I'm so glad JCS is back. Oh my
but as soon as he gives them his initial version of events, the pressure will rapidly accelerate, in a manner that David is in no way anticipating.
What would you like to eat? And I'll run down.
Just something simple, just like saltines or peanut butter crackers.
Anything like that? Okay, yeah, that's not a problem. We'll be right back.
Nigga want peanut butter crackers while his wife just killed herself in the tub.
I take that one.
Yes.
Not one tear.
Okay.
Not one tear shed already.
Okay, is that good?
No signs of...
I'm with you. I haven't eaten since this morning. I'm sorry this is taking so long. You are
no, what's it called?
I believe. Okay.
Grief.
I'm Detective Teresa Sprague, and this is Detective Barb McClelland. First of all, on behalf of the Atlanta Police Department, we want to say how sorry we are for your loss.
So this is the first
Oh,
out of a
now you
total
wanna
11
cry.
of David's fake cry.
Nigga, you sat in here for 6 hours by yourself to think about this yourself, and you didn't cry once. They say her name. Nigga, turn
Their
into a
intensity
fucking
level will peak about halfway
dolphin,
through
turn
this
into
video
Windex, get a
during
window
some of the more
clean.
embarrassing performances
Come
you're
on,
ever
bro.
likely to witness on the internet. But from that moment on, you'll notice these acts steadily diminish, as the detective makes it more and more abundantly obvious that she knows he's lying.
David, and also
Come on,
for
bro.
everything that you're
Obviously
going
fake.
through. I know this is very
Look at his face
traumatic.
be bone dry.
Okay.
They start by collecting David's basic information.
Okay. Blonde or brown hair?
Little of both.
Blue both. Okay. Okay. Hazel eyes, maybe?
I'll take Hazel.
Blue, hazel.
This nigga talking about. Come on,
Okay.
man.
They're
This
dirty.
nigga laughing at you.
Okay.
Actually, my eyes are dirty blue.
Is there a
Not
blue
hazel.
one?
Laughing and shit.
There is.
Okay.
I
Fake
can't
ass
remember the
nipples.
last four digits. It's 407. The next three are easy. 704, the opposite. And I never call it.
The next three are 704.
It's 407, 704, and then I think it's 2808. It might be 2406, but I have it in my phone. I
Okay.
haven't. We've had it since we were at Briarcliff
And when did you move to Florida?
in 2013,
Okay.
about 5 months after I met Shanti.
Did you meet her here or there?
No, why?
You met online?
See how he just breaks out in tears every time they talk about her? That's how you know
Can
it's
you
fake
tell
as
me
fuck.
what year that was?
It was 2013.
2013.
Oh, but you able to recall details immediately from the grief into the question.
Is when you met online?
Yeah.
How are you just back normal? Look at the
And
shape.
about 5 months later, did you move here and move in with her, or just move here?
So, I'll try to be as accurate as possible. I believe it's the end of September.
So you guys knew each other approximately 5 years this month.
Where's the JC-ish chime in?
More love.
You know the classic chime in like, huh? This guy thinks breaking out in tears like a da-da-da. Like, where's that at?
If you don't, I know you've probably never been through anything like this in your life, okay? And I'm going to help you get through it. If you have questions, you want to stop me, please do so, okay? But I do need you to understand your rights before we ask you about anything that happened in that home today, okay? All right. You have the right to remain silent. Do you understand that? I'm sorry?
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Anything you say may be used against you in court. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Would you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Absolutely? Okay. All right. So I need you to we're going to continue down this path about how you all met. I know you met on Match.com, and about 5 months of, what would it be, telephone, text, and...
We just started every other weekend.
They hit it off, moved in together, then went looking for a house to buy in Florida.
Damn, I was waiting for you, JC. Yeah, shit. You
Waited
been?
and waited and waited, and it fell through. And then we closed on the house on Copeland in April of 2015.
So you guys own the house free and clear. Is your name only on it, or was it both of yours?
I mean, yes, only his shit. And nigga, if you can beat your wife and strangle her, I'ma guess you finessed her ass out of the house lease.
When we bought the house, we weren't married. And so we put it in a trust, and we just completed the trust paperwork.
He put the house in his and his mother's names while leaving
His mom? What the fuck?
wife out of it for, quote, planning and financial reasons.
So he put his name, his mom, but not
He
his
asserts
wife.
the decision was mutual, but whether
wouldn't put my
Shanti
wife
actually
either.
knew about this or not is unclear.
And you've
Not taking
been,
my
so
shit.
once you moved to Florida, you've been living together the whole time, just home to home. Just first with the folks, then Briarcliff, and then this residence. But you've been together the whole time. Have you ever broken up?
We had a couple fights, I think when we were living at Briarcliff.
Okay.
We spent a few nights apart.
He says that he just spent a few nights with his mom, then drifts off into a statement about how Shanti was dedicated to work. The detective will now cut him off and steer the line of questioning back to the argument.
But she's
So
a strong
when you
business.
guys would argue when you would go to your mom's, it was just because she was busy all the time, or what would the beef be?
The work had a lot of stress. And, she would sometimes. We always agreed, later that she
He
was
can't even come up with one of the fights they had.
just overworked and tired and
So she'd get a little snippy or short or yell, scream, what?
just irritable.
Irritable.
Just irritability.
Why is he talking so
Sometimes
soft?
it's just I'm
Trying to act like he's all docile. Like,
Yeah.
nigga, you beat and strangled your wife.
I just stand there. So I just, I would just say, I want to take a break, or just let it, a little cool down period. And every time we did it, we came back. I think we only did it twice, but we were stronger.
Okay. And has that happened since you moved where you are now? Because now we've got the added stress of the renovation.
No, we love it. We love the.
This is Keith Ory, the producer of the house flipping show that David wanted to be on.
When you would be interacting with the Tronas related to your work on the house and also the show, who was your primary point of contact?
Oh, Dave was. He would communicate her desires. I would see her, but it was more like Dave's full-time job, almost, I guess I would say.
Did you ever know during your time that you knew Dave to have any other job?
I was aware that he had explained to me that he had worked for a chemical company up north somewhere.
I actually never knew what Dave did for a living. When my husband had asked him, he said he was into sales, but I don't really know.
So this nigga's
what
in
that
sales, chemicals.
means.
What the fuck does he do?
David never worked in sales or at a chemical company. You're now about to see Keith explain that
What
he
does he
insisted
do?
on having a formal sit-down with Shanti to make sure that she
Is
was
he
fully on
hitman?
board.
It was difficult to get them both together, but I explained ultimately that we couldn't go
Agent 42?
forward if I wasn't able to sit down with them both.
Ultimately, you're able to get this sit-down scheduled. Tell the jury about that meeting.
I arrived at the house to meet Dave and Shanti, and she was, by my estimation, unhappy to be there. And it was in a sort of a tense state. It was obvious that she was unhappy with something, and she was only there as long as she absolutely had to be, and then left.
This
Yeah,
all
'cause you were the
occurred
clout
6 days
chaser.
before Shanti was murdered.
How this nigga in his mid-40s clout chasing?
We love
With a
what we're
great
doing to the
beard.
house.
Nigga got a great
Vision
goatee
we have
and
for the
mustache.
house. It's
Clout
totally-
chaser.
I mean, she wanted so bad. It made me happy.
And the sad thing is, he got what he wanted. He got to be on TV and shit after he did this.
It was a thing that we did together. She wanted to quit her job when we got the house done, or just kind of, slowly phase out of it. She thought, a couple of times that she would really need to take a break, and definitely slow down, and definitely not add a whole lot more work. But she could do more if she wanted to. I'm sorry, I can't talk about it any faster.
That's fine. And that's very normal.
Bro, that fake
That's
cry
very
is
normal.
disgusting.
Because
That shit's so trash.
you're not going to process this for a really long time. So I know it feels like a really bad.
Bro, his fake
Now
crash
notice how
is so
quickly he
trash.
manages to pull
Fake
himself
cries.
out of the depths of
He
despair
can pull
and into
himself out of
casually
despair,
talking about his
he'll
house
go
flipping
casual.
show.
Despair.
We, Keith also does, our lives are busy. I'm so sorry. I know you're asking simple questions, but Keith does a TV show, a home improvement.
Keith, the guy you
Ori.
mentioned, Ori? Okay.
It's called Zombie House Flipping,
Keith asked them to be on the show.
which meant that we would get a lot of what they call trade-outs and promotional sponsorship to do
Any financial incentive to do that?
big. That's what they call trade-out. I'm sorry, that's what they call trade-outs. So their sponsors, that's one of the things I was working on yesterday, was putting together a list of the sponsorships, the windows, doors, cabinets, and So maybe instead of getting granite, you get quartz, or maybe instead of getting, you know, middle range cabinets, you get high-end stuff. And we're also working on kind of just an amazing open concept stairway in the middle of the house that's going to go all the way up to the
This nigga's going into detail of his architectural layout of his house would have been, but he killed his. He literally killed his wife because she just didn't want to do the show. This is
And so
sick.
they come in and start filming? Would they film you all or just the
This
work?
is
No, it's just the house. They're the stars.
Pay no
It's like, we
attention
would
to
have had this beautiful stairway if it wasn't for this bitch.
David's no. He fully understood that he would be featured prominently on the show as the main builder construction guy. The so-called stars he's talking about are the hosts. The detective will now establish a timeline.
So when she comes home Sunday, it's you, Jackson, and Shanti, and you just stay at home and have a pool get together?
We only have them every other Sunday. It's our family day, and we do like to have an early meal, watch a movie.
So, do you recall Sunday night about what time everybody goes to sleep since you're all
We
the
go to
same?
bed early on school nights, so 8:30 we're winding down. 9 o'clock lights are low.
Shanti's son gets picked up the next day at around 5 p.m.
5 p.m.-ish, okay. All right, and then do you guys go anywhere, do anything, or you stay at home?
I think we made dinner together that night. And,
So that would have been Monday night. Did you watch TV?
we did
Any idea what?
American Idol.
Why is he talking
Okay,
like
so
this? This shit pisses
you
me
wake
off.
up Tuesday morning and you're in the garage on the couch?
I usually wait for her to come down.
He's trying to act like he's distraught by talking in a soft voice. It's just coming off like he really was with he had a secret lover and it was a fucking man.
Come down after 7 o'clock, probably almost 7:30.
Shanti went back upstairs and David started doing chores around the house. He's now about to mention the last time he supposedly saw Shanti alive, and then break into another fake hysteric. Yet this time, he will get no reassuring feedback from the detective, and the charade
Good.
will rapidly dissipate.
Please, fuck this shit up.
Just, I should come down again. That's not what I saw.
She came down again, and what happened?
Came down. And I've been
That's just crazy.
what time it is, but I don't know exactly.
They cry
I would say
or
probably
dark.
9:50 anyway.
I
because
mean-
I know that it's just
She said she was going to the dentist, and he said he was going for a
the
walk.
challenge.
He now attempts
fuck it.
another fake cry, but gets ignored again.
And
Did you take the dogs for a walk?
I went for a walk
By yourself?
by myself.
And where'd you go?
How you go into a cry and then
I went
how you go into a cry and then go back to a normal sentence?
He comes back home and feeds the
retarded.
dogs.
That's all that I can remember.
What does he
until
think
I
he's
was
doing?
upstairs
He
just
think he a
swimming.
genius or something? He really think he finna
Okay, and what
skate out of
happens
this?
when you enter the home? Is anything unusual? When you enter the garage apartment?
So, I could hear the water is running, but it's not running. It's not like the sound of the shower running. It's just, it's trickling out of the spout.
Okay, and so
You
you
heard
walk
water
toward the
trickling
water?
out the spout from
Did you hear it?
downstairs.
Yeah, walking to the bathroom.
Okay.
Just in case you didn't
Nigga,
catch
are
the
you
passive-aggressive
Superman?
nature of that response, here it is again without subtitles.
So you walk toward the water that you're hearing?
Yeah, walking to the bathroom.
Okay.
Just look at David's face. Poor David really doesn't want to be getting grilled like this anymore. Keep in mind it's almost 11 p.m. He likely didn't get a whole lot of sleep the night before, and he's been acting his ass off all throughout the day. He'll at this point be exhausted, and want nothing more than to get out of that police station. But he doesn't want to challenge the detective directly, and risk losing her approval. Hence he throws out a weak little display of passive aggression to see if she'll pick up on the hint, but it of course gets ignored. She will simply continue pressing with an unsympathetic tone which will cause David to revert back to appeasement. He will then begin recounting the horrific circumstances under which he supposedly found
Please don't
Shanti,
make me
and as
sit
this
here and watch a
unfolds
fake
you will
cry
see
for
a
the
glaring
80th
disparity in David's emotional
80th
presentation.
time.
The door's open, and what happens? What do you see?
I see her laying other head in the right-hand corner. And it's just extremely awful, and it doesn't look natural. Obviously, she fell or something happened.
But you did shut off the water.
I did shut off the water and it drained, which tells me...
What the fuck? He went from a docile, sad voice. I did shut off the water, actually,
I could hear it draining when I pulled her out. I could hear. So that okay. So I guess this is all weird, right? Because she's in there. The water's on and it's draining. It doesn't make any. It just doesn't.
It's not on all the way. It's on how
like lukewarm. So just past half.
And she's face down. So the first thing you do is what, if you recall?
I reached out and grabbed her. I reached out and...
Look how you went back to soft voice.
Her right arm. The water is rose colored. The water itself.
Quartz.
I can see a spot of blood.
And you pull her by her arms.
So I grabbed
like redstone in Minecraft
to get kind of under it a little bit.
You said she seems stiff.
Yeah. Hard to move.
There's something so incredibly unnerving in the sound of the casual crunching of his snack as he recounts in precise detail the limp and lifeless body of his wife, so we'll spare you the rest of it.
I had to pull her and turn her a couple of times. Then she felt cold. You asked how she felt. She felt cold.
She felt cold.
I grabbed the,
You grabbed the what?
We had, when we did the bedding, we took the mattress cover off to wash it.
The detective asks David to draw a map for the purpose of illustrating the timeline of his movements. She will now shift the line of questioning and begin to gradually intensify the pressure.
Them fake ass cries and soft fake voice, and then going back to normal voice.
Very briefly on Saturday, right before we left.
The argument was over the renovation. David likely admitted to this because Shanti's son was there for it.
The upstairs floor was very wavy, and the point of contention probably was, do we tear all of that out and put in new structure and trusses so we have a perfectly flat floor and then a perfectly flat ceiling? But I don't think it's an argument if Shanti and I are both on the same page and we're both just in agreement and upset reasonably and
if you're both in
justifiably upset that it's taking longer. Shanti and I aren't fighting about it.
Mm-hmm.
We're both upset about the same thing.
Does she feel as though you don't listen to her?
No, I don't think so. She knows I was.
Has any fight ever turned physical between the two of you?
No.
Okay. Has she ever hurt you, hit you, struck you, threw anything at you?
No.
No. Have you ever harmed her physically?
You should have said nothing.
David continues to pretend that he doesn't notice the accusatory nature of the questioning, so the detective will now intensify the pressure to a significant degree.
She seems to shed.
You're in Florida.
Her injuries to me, David, seem really significant.
Blunt force, man. You can't hide.
More significant than from a soft tissue fall. More significant than from me tripping and falling and hitting my head and being knocked unconscious.
She elaborates on the inconsistencies while David just sits there and nods.
The issue I'm having with it is I absolutely think that she was deceased before you left to go to the park.
She repeats what she said a few more times, while David just keeps doing what he's doing.
Okay, so I think that you've told us a significant amount of information. You've been very cooperative. But I also think that you've left some stuff out.
Wow.
And I think you've left some stuff out that is...
You think?
Maybe something got out of hand. Maybe you didn't mean for it to happen. Maybe you got upset. Maybe But there's something that happened between the two of you before you left that house.
The nigga was mad she didn't want to install the quartz countertop. She didn't give a fuck about the TV show to get the free appliances and shit. And he snapped and lost it and
She was
grabbed her by her
deceased,
fucking neck.
or on her way to being deceased, before you left that house. Now, if there's an explanation, I want to hear it.
That's the explanation.
I told you everything.
Yeah, but you've left out something, David, because this woman has significant injuries. Okay, this is not from a fall.
Bro, did he really think he can
harm
disguise? Did he really think he could disguise this as a suicide? Nigga, she has bruises and marks and busted lip. Her neck has bruising from looks like a fucking hands wrapped around her neck. Her airways fucked. Like, nigga, are you dumb?
Auntie in any way?
Absolutely not.
Did you choke her?
Absolutely not.
Did you strangle her?
Without question, no.
Did you beat her?
No.
Did you hit her with anything?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Do you have injuries?
I do not. I do have some scratches
Why
from the
is he-
bromeliads and from the bougainvillea.
Okay.
I do trim them.
I was gonna say, why is this nigga naked?
Aside from the scratches from his plants, David had no injuries that could indicate a struggle. But this might explain why.
You noticed a single earring on the nightstand?
A single what?
A single diamond earring on the nightstand.
To this
Yes.
Yeah, what was the
middle-aged
significance
man
of
with his
that?
man breast out. Ugh.
Looks like she
Ew.
removed it before bed and didn't get a chance to remove the other one.
Because you believe that's when the attack occurred.
On the edge of the bed, where the blood was found on the side rail, yes. And I think when she turned to take that earring out, she didn't see it coming.
He strangled.
Would you mind,
Wow, he got her.
just
She
for
wasn't paying
me to
attention
be able to say
Wow.
David is a perfect gentleman and is in the clear and did not harm his wife? Would you mind taking a polygraph and proving that to us?
Absolutely.
Okay. Would that be a possibility? Yeah. Okay. All right.
The detective asks David if he wants another water, to which he says, sure. So she brings him a water and tells him they'll be right back with a polygraph machine. But instead of coming right back, they leave him in there for just over
hours.
2 hours, during which time they decide not to proceed with the polygraph, but simply ramp up the confrontation.
Hi. You doing okay?
Yeah, it's just,
Did you sleep a little?
I did.
I know you've got to be exhausted. Or at least.
How did they just wait people
Mentally.
out for hours?
I just want to point out some
And it
things
was like
too that
11 o'clock.
I think
It's
are
like
unusual.
3 a.m.
There's so many, I
Oh, it's
really don't know
5.
where to begin,
Jesus.
to be perfectly honest with you. I think that I find that the living arrangement, I find to be completely unusual for you to be primarily living downstairs.
I'm not primarily living downstairs.
Well, sleeping.
What I said is that I sleep down there, but I don't go down there till we're done with dinner, we're done watching TV, or we're done for the evening.
Okay, just hear me out.
Okay.
So you don't go upstairs during the day while she's
Press
working.
his
You
dumb
leave her alone.
ass. His big headed
And
ass.
then-
Not entirely. I do go up there.
Okay.
But I don't work up there while she's on the phone because it's distracting. It's her office. I think that I've explained extremely well. She didn't
No.
sleep. She did, but you said.
He continues defending the fact that he was exiled to the garage.
I think it's an adjustment and a transition that she didn't feel like she could make right now because she couldn't afford the time that it would take.
But she's sleeping in the only part of the residence that's semi-comfortable. You're sleeping in the garage with the dogs.
This nigga's in the garage?
How do you explain this woman's head being swollen, her eyes
Jesus.
being
Popping
black?
out of her face.
What?
And would never
Damn.
ever hurt her.
He strangled her till
So
her
when
eyes
you
went
pulled out of
black.
the tub, you agreed with me
Jesus
that the water came
Christ.
out of the tub. There's not a spot of water on the floor, David. The carpet isn't wet. The carpet isn't wet from where she was pulled out of the bathtub, sopping wet, all the way around to the front of the couch. The carpet's not wet. There's no blood on the carpet.
Notice how little David moves compared to the detective. It doesn't correlate with anything in particular. It's just sort of interesting to watch.
Yeah, earlier he
My
was
guess
like
is she wasn't treating you very well.
doing all types of shit. Now he just, I'm fucked.
And there's only so much.
Should have got a
you can
lawyer,
take
dumbass.
before they snap.
Appreciate the very kind things that you've said.
I'm missing what you're saying because of your suit that you're moving, but I'm missing it. It's really loud, but I missed what you said because you're talking so loud.
I'm sorry, it's Paulina. I appreciate that things.
You
that you've
appreciate
said
her
and the genuine,
saying that basically you killed your wife.
consideration and thoughtfulness behind it.
David, you killed this woman.
I cooperated so I could give you all the information and all.
You cooperated because you thought that
the
your
backstory.
language would overwhelm
No,
us,
not
and you
at
thought
all.
you could pull the wool over our
I
eyes.
didn't think there was any effort to do that.
All of this, all these tangents, all this flowery,
The tangents were
fancy language,
answers to
all the
questions that you
details.
asked. To questions that you asked.
You know,
Nigga, you were
you
going on
fake
tangents
cried
about
for about
layouts of the
7 or
house.
8
Shut up.
hours today. Not one tear came out of your eyes. Not one.
Thought
Not
this was
one.
Extreme
Not on
House
scene with the
Makeover, just
officers.
yapping.
Not in this
Shut
room.
up.
You have fake cried over this woman's death since we made contact with you for hours. And every single time you fake cried, we wrote it down. Not one tear came out of your
They
eyes.
wrote
Not
down
one.
every fake cry. How many times you cried?
We've been extremely patient with you for a very long time. I am losing my patience at this point because there is not a lick of remorse for what you did to this woman. Not even a little bit. You're staring at a woman you're telling us you're in love with, and you've done nothing the whole time but close your eyes, huddle up, and protect your own ass.
She on his
So
ass.
we're just gonna
Damn,
prove
and
you're
he
full of
turning
shit
red.
and solve
He's
this
doing
case.
that classic
And I'm
tomato
glad you
shit.
think that's funny.
The classic
I'm glad you think that's
white
funny.
man turned to tomato.
The investigators would exit the
Flustered.
room shortly after this moment, at 4:56 a.m. David
know
would then
his stomach
sit there
drop.
for a little over 2 hours before finally asking to go home. But before being driven back
They
by one
said
of the officers, they asked him if they could take his photograph. He cheerfully obliged. Judging by his expression, he may have thought
He's
he had just
smiling.
gotten away
You're
with
dumb.
murder, but a grand jury indicted him 4 months later, and he was arrested at his mother's
4
house.
months?
When he was told he was facing life imprisonment and that the evidence against him was
Cooked.
overwhelming, he started acting crazy and went for the insanity defense. He was then sent to a maximum security psych unit, where he spent 5 years
Oh
before a
my
judge
God,
ruled him
he got
competent to
that.
stand trial.
Yeah,
This is
keep
what he
that
looked
nigga
like on the
alone.
day he was transferred back to jail. His
Shit.
trial began on October 12th and lasted 6 days. He maintained his plea of not guilty, with his official defense being that he was out of the house walking the dogs while an unknown intruder broke in and murdered Shanti.
You heard about the sleeping arrangement. You heard how
Bro, we
the
already
defendant was
talked about
sleeping
how-
in the garage with the dogs, while Shanti was staying in the
was
essential,
there, dude.
one-bedroom apartment,
thought he
separate
was
and
there,
apart
but
from
he
him. And this had
just
been going on,
sleep,
for over a year. This was an intentional
that.
killing.
Walking, bro.
A random stranger that comes into a house isn't going to, take
There's
the
no
time
proof
that it
for
takes to
strangers.
strangle a person, to move them to a tub. Not take anything? Doesn't make any sense. Leave no sign behind, no fingerprints, no DNA? That doesn't make any sense. You have the severe beating of Shanti. You have the injuries to both sides of her face. You have the fractured skull, the swollen shut eye, the damaged
Did
eye
he
on
get
the
a
other
prison
side.
time?
That you saw the intense bruising and bleeding in both sides of her mouth. This was a beating. So at some point in that beating, the defendant, and you can infer this from the facts, intended to cause the death. And he did it with a premeditated design. We ask that you convict him of first-degree murder.
Yeah, throw that nigga under the jail.
Thank you.
The defense mainly tries to evoke empathy for the defendant, but it ends up just roasting the fake crazy out of him.
Shanti's the only source of the income. She's the breadwinner. He does nothing other than take care of the pool and the dogs. It's about circumstantial evidence, pure supposition, all steered by Teresa Sprague, who prejudged this case based upon a phone call received from her from the officer at the scene about these crocodile tears. This is just
that
a
nigga's
hunch,
suit is fucking with me, bro. It's like a
hunch.
Doctor Strange spell. I see
You
this
hear
nigga's
horses,
bow tie
if
and
you
I
hear
just fall
hooves,
asleep.
it's
I'm
think
back.
horses, not zebras, sort of thing. Because that's the point.
Well,
You
he doing
don't
a
get to fit a
Dormammu
square
time
peg in a
spell,
round hole
man.
because it's convenient. And that's what happened here. With the rush to judgment, with the confirmational bias, those two detectives went into a room with David Tronis and worked him over. He sat there for 16 hours, bared his soul
Damn,
to
16
them,
hours?
literally and figuratively, told them what he knew, told them what he
Wait,
saw.
physically?
The government's the one spinning here. The government's the one taking the insignificant and stacking them into a pyramid. And I'm confident that after carefully deliberating, that you'll come back and return the only just verdict in this case, and that's a verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
Verdict reads, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment.
Let's go.
As we all, dated at Orange County, Florida, on the 18th day of October, 2023, signed by the foreperson.
In the midst of this tragedy, Shanti's impact as a mother was shown through her son Jackson. His victim impact statement was both heartrending and dignified.
My family and I have been waiting for about 5 years for justice. I miss her so much. I would have never thought the day before was the last time I would see my mother alive. I miss the times where we would go to Universal, or just the simple times, like walking the dogs or going to the park. She was the best mom I could ever ask for. That's it.
Defense, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Jackson.
That's sad as hell. That's
Mr.
your
Thomas,
son. You
anything
just
wish to
killed
say
his
prior to
mom.
sentencing? I think you just said no, is that right? Then in this case, the court will adjudicate you guilty, will sentence you to life imprisonment. Luck to you, sir.
Life.
And the court will be in recess.
Damn.
This is his latest mugshot. He is currently being housed at the Graceville Correctional Facility in maximum security, where he is expected to remain.
He look like he part of the skins. He look like he part of the skins in jail. Nigga look crazy. Jail really changed him. He just paying what he's supposed to. Lifetime. You took a life. You lose yours. JCS, glad you're back. I might have took a few extended blinks during the video. A few extended blinks. Not like you're not watching it on some late night vibes, maybe midday. Like, I don't know. I'm just glad JC's back. They fucked up with that AI switch up. Had AIs telling jokes, corny ass jokes that sounded retarded in the script. But then now they're not doing it no more. I don't know what's going on with JCS. I have no idea, but glad they're back doing what they do. It's still not fully formed JCS, but they're getting back in the swing of things. So let me know what you think. Fuck this dude. Feel bad for the son, like his dad murdered his mother. Like, what type of mental effects would that have? I don't know. Fuck. But other video here. Sub here. Like, comment. This is the comment. You don't gotta do the comment. But like it though.